Welcome to my Self-Care Shit, the podcast, where we talk about what true self-care looks and feels like. I'm your host, Kathy Love, two-time TEDx speaker, author, and self-care coach. Each week, we'll have honest conversations on how to create the peace and stability we crave in our lives. Chason Forehand is the visionary founder behind two mission-driven organizations, HR Consultations, a boutique HR firm dedicated exclusively to empowering social good entities, and HR for You, Inc., a trailblazing nonprofit committed to economic justice. Through bold advocacy and their groundbreaking Transformation Kitchen program, HR for You, Inc. champions living wages and workforce dignity for marginalized communities, turning opportunity into lasting impact. They don't just flip eggs, they flip lives. All right. Chason, I'm not excited to have you have this conversation with me today. I am honored. I am a little emotional because we have really created this friendship, this bond over the last couple of years that is so special to me. Meeting through the Outlier Project years ago, when you were coming around, but not as often. And then it just started to develop over time, and we got to know each other better. And really, I knew from the beginning that you had this big heart, but it has really, really come out so much in the past year. And, our connection has grown so much. And I'm just really honored to have you here to be able to talk about your journey in in what you're doing with Transformation Kitchen, and also being able to express yourself as this true form of self-care.
Mm.
So I wanted to just ask you if you could give us a little bit of your background and, give us a little bit of the story, and we'll weave in our connections as we go. Um, I know it's a long story, but if you could give us a bit of it, I think it's really, really impactful.
Well, first of all, I love you to pieces. Joe and I both are just super duper fans, and we would drive to the ends of the earth to see you shine, and we're so proud of you. So
Well, you did drive all the way to SUNY Portland
that's easy. That was
to,
that was nothing.
but
So
you were there. You were in the audience when I gave my TEDx in April,
you were brilliant.
and
You
you
were
were one
brilliant.
of a few people who did that for me, and I will always, always appreciate you and Joe for that.
I, you were dynamite,
Thank you.
and so I look for you to be on bigger and better stages where they actually pay you, and I will be in the audience and cheering you then.
Thank you.
I am a kid from a large Irish family, and so at one point in time, I was the oldest of six boys. There are only three of us remaining, the three oldest. So we were all named ours except for my youngest brother, and they broke it for some reason and named him Michael. But all of us are ours. So my real name, first name, is Ronald, and I loathe that immensely because I grew up in the time period where Ronald McDonald was everywhere, and your every single teacher and every single class would say your entire name, like who decided you have to do that? You know who I am. You've seen me for days now. Like, check the thing, but saying the whole Ronald Chason Forehand Jr., like that drove me insane. And kids would just erupt, Ronald McDonald. It really bothered me. I'm a kid that was already awkward. Everybody now, and it just blows my mind, like everyone is so excited to have their I just found it out at 45. I have ADHD. And it's not like, okay, look, I found out I had ADHD, which explains a lot of things. I'm really not, I don't even know how to comprehend all of this stuff. Like that to me would make more sense, but people are almost like looking for a diagnosis. Like, how can I just want to be with the in crowd and I want to be neurodiverse and I want to be this and I want to have this label. I had all the D's. When you would be ripped out of class, you get paddled, then I'd get paddled again at home, then I get paddled again, potentially depending on how the conversation went between my stepmother and my father, and or grounded or something else. And so that was not a fun time period. And I'm also a kid that has hearing issues. I've got one side is like 75%, one side's 50%. I had tubes as a kid. That's disgusting. That's like awful. And I had a lisp. So literally, I have a speech impediment and I'm sitting here in this thing. I've come through massive physical abuse from my biological mother. I don't know the story. I don't remember all the things. I didn't even get the story until I was 11. And my beautiful grandmother, all 4 foot whatever of her, and her beautiful handwriting would handwrite these long letters. And she wrote me this really long thing explaining like everything to me when I was like 11, 12 years old. But even then, I can't find the letter from all these moves that we've made because I've lived in 11, I've moved in 17 states, 42 cities. I turned 61 on December 22nd. And a lot of that was my childhood. Some of that was, my adult life. Some of it was running away from myself. And I went from really bad physical abuse to more of the psychological abuse. Could she be physically abusive? Yes, there were times where it was excessive.
Your
Um,
stepmom.
my stepmom, yeah, and my dad, he went by the resume. Like a lot of leaders out in the world, they look at the resume, they don't pay attention to the person. And this has significance later on in my life because I spent 16 years. And as I got older and older and got into my teens, I got mouthier. Here's the introvert kid that's starting to do stuff out in the world because you pushed him to do it. And now he's getting mouthy and he's running away from home and he's starting to act out and he's doing all these things. But at the same time, he's making great grades because man, if I came home with a B plus, I'd be punished and grounded. I like all the things. Like there was no such thing as not having a straight A, report card. And so, I mean, that was just how life was. I just like, I didn't know because, you have friends you have these friends when you're a kid that come from divorced families and whatnot. So you see broken homes and it was, people weren't talking about it, but kids talk about it. And so I realized that, people are messed up and they're coming from their own journey. And as I got older, I wanted to know about it. Like I really wanted to understand the human genome, why people do what they do, why do they say what they do, how can you read body language and understand almost to a fault. Like I learned more than I probably was good for me because I couldn't process everything that I'm feeling myself. I still have this vacant, massive hole, and it's just getting bigger and bigger each year until the point where I'm just like crashing and burning. So at 15, I started in the culinary world. At 16, I started taking drugs and I'm sailing through. I went to SUNY New Paltz on a full ride, and I got out of taking all the classes that normal kids would take. And they say, what do you want to fill the gap with? Because you don't have to take math, you don't have to take science, you don't have to history. I'm an English major and I decided to be a psychology and business double minor. And the psychology classes I got approved to take were like graduate level classes. And they waited for a little while and they let me take some some kind of introductory classes, and then I did really well and I got some recommendations from teachers that I was in their class, and it's all honors classes, and they're like, okay, and they started giving me bigger and badder classes. And by bigger and badder, I mean I'm taking stuff that, if you're a psychology major, that's what you're going to be taking. But I thought it was fascinating. I thought it was just absolutely fascinating because I want to understand, like, why human beings, why would my biological mother do these things to my brother and I? Why would my stepmother treat us differently than her children, my brothers? Because there's six of us, but we're definitely not equal. And it really bothered me. And really, I'm like, I carried it for the longest time. And then I even blamed my father because my dad's traveling 5, 6 days a week to put food on the table. And in my mind, he's like, how can you not know this? You're ignoring this. You purposely are just staying out there on the road and doing that. And you're just leaving us to the wolves. And I had a big problem with my dad for the longest time. Like really could not get over that. And it was holding me back. Um, and I wasn't dealing, you deal in self-care. I spent 30 years in the cycle of self-deprivation, of trying to take myself off the planet, off the board, trying to act like I didn't care and put anything into my system, no matter what the cost might be. And I, in and out of jail, but I understand so vividly, especially now the work that I do with people, how lucky I got. Like literally, if I wasn't white, if I didn't speak well, if I couldn't clean up, man, they would have thrown I would have been under the prison. And forget like going to county. Like I never spent a day, not a single day in prison. I don't have a felony. Uh you can't find anything on me. So if people are looking, it's like good luck. Because all that stuff disappears, felonies stay, and I never had that. Never spent a day in prison. I was in and out of different county, in and out of juvie at some point. I mean, I was not doing the things I should have done, but man, I got really, really lucky, really lucky. And it all comes down to a broken system and how and race, and it's
That's the
not
luck
equal.
that you're talking about, the lucky
Yeah,
being.
that's
Yeah.
lucky in that sense that, you know what, the system sees me differently, even though my crimes are exactly the same. It sees me differently than an African American or a Hispanic person with tats. You know, I am deathly afraid of needles, which has kept me from like, I would have from my neck probably down to my toes, because I think they're fascinating and I love the stories. And my daughter Keely, if you've ever seen her, she has a lot of tattoos,
Mhm.
and I respect that and I love it, but it's not for me because I would just pass out. Like literally, they have to come, they have to they take blood from me, they have to come, and one lady will stand and say, all right, we're gonna hold on to you, big guy, and the other one will come and take the blood, and like, don't look, I am a big baby. Like, I'm not scared of a lot of things, but needles and I just do not. So I don't have any tattoos, and it's funny. I just like it's a thing. But yeah, I understand the privilege that I live in, and how fortunate I am. because there were I burned a lot of bridges. I did a lot of things that I'm not proud of. And um, yeah, so I ended up just having the fortunate ability to be just good enough to always make the teams, whether it be in sports, whether it be in singing, whether it be in not, like not, my wife calls me a jack of all trades. Like I'm a chameleon. I can reinvent and redo, and because I like to figure things out. But at the same time, I'm just good enough to do the things, but sometimes I'm not a pro at it because I'm not committed. I can't even tell you how many, I think it's something like 6 instruments, but I'm not great at them. And it's to accompany my voice, because I'm a singer at heart. And that's the string that kind of goes through all of my life. I was a pretty doggone good chef and even made the echelons, which made me get to places where I went the path instead of going to higher end. I went to multi-unit and be like, I saw that as a bigger path to excel. And I was focused for the longest period of time as I had conquered my addiction with drugs. So I thought I still had this gaping hole. So now I'm trying to fill it with women and money and other and it just it never filled up. And, so I'm 5'8" when I was at the best shape of my life and I'm playing sports, I was 225 pounds. I'm stocky. I'm as wide as I am tall. You've seen me in person. I got to a place where I was 400 pounds, 5'8", 400 pounds. I have like all these certifications. I know nutrition. I know, but it's like it happens. And it's like like you look in the mirror and you go, who is this human? And I finally got to a place in 2015, where I was like, I started down this path and it started slow. And I'm like, I just still don't like the human I am. 2017, we moved back to New York to take care of my father. He lived on a piece of property. It was 5 acres, and he's not doing well. He's got cancer, and that year was the year that I lost the last 50 pounds, and I had gotten to 235. And over the course, because I am a reactionary eater, and I still had not dealt with all the things. There's still pieces of this going on where I haven't dealt with all the things that I needed to face. So through his death, through losses in my life, through things happening left and right, the pandemic, all of this stuff. My business that I had built since 2012 in human resources, I had left corporate in a really toxic place at the end of 2018. 2019 was my favorite year. And in 2020, I lose my father and I lose my business. And my weight starts going like this again. So over the course of this time period, now we go up 10, go down 5, go up 15, go down, like this yo-yo of this 50 pounds. And I had gotten to 10 pounds away from my target goal of 225. And right now I'm 260. And it's just this yo-yo. And I realized the thing that happened, and I started working on it last year really big. And that is that I had never come clean with a lot of people about the fact that I I had taken the steps and I had apologized to certain people. You know, I believe in the 12 steps. I think they're powerful, but I think we try to skirt some of it and try to save our face by like, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to not do all of it kind of, or I'm going to do sort of kind of do it. And so I apologized. I tried to apologize to a lot of people, especially women in my life. I had made a lot of, I just was not very kind because I was hurt by women. So I was hurting women in my life. And it's so funny now that I have more women that are close to me and friends and really like you. And that's because I've started to really do the work that I hadn't done all of these years. Yes, now I've got these other things under control, and it's very rare for me to have a moment where I think about drugs or harming myself or anything like that. Those are really rare moments. They still happen, but they're really rare moments, and I usually can find someone to talk through them with, and I can take the steps I need to protect myself. I recognize them as they're coming usually, but I wasn't being honest with myself and pulling off the last pieces of the mask. The real irony is that for the nonprofit, it took me to this time period as well to realize that people wanted to hear my why. I'm saying I don't want to be the face of this. I don't want it to be because of my story that you decide to support, but it is that way right now until we get to a place where we're more well known, where people will go like, man, I love that transformation kitchen. Do you see it just opened down the street? And I'm sitting in the booth next to them and they don't even know who I am. And I'm like, that moment, I'm that moment, that's when I can walk away and be like, that's it. We did it. We did what we set out to do. That's the thing. Because I don't want it to be about me. I want it to be about the impact we have. But I didn't realize that in this internal work that I'm doing to shed those last pieces of the mask to be like, hey, this is an old hockey mug. You can check out all the scars. He doesn't have all the answers, and he just shows up as he, I mean, this is it. You get what you get. Um,
I think I was there when the mask came off.
you were, you were. I
And we
appreciate that
we
very
and
much.
we all loved what we got. That was
I
a
tell you,
beautiful, beautiful moment um, in your story, which is really, it's always still just starting, but that was a really, really transformational moment for you, for Transformation Kitchen, for Rayo. So like it was a huge, huge thing.
thank you. I think I think I still have moments where I am processing all of it and still trying. I know we talked about earlier making sure that that pendulum doesn't swing too far one way or the other. I'm still figuring that out.
We
But
all are.
yeah, I think we all are. I think we all are just trying to be the best version of ourselves each day. And that's what,
I mean, I think the true healing is when we can see the pendulum at all, when we're paying attention, when we know where the pendulum is. That's self-care. That's healing. It's when
agreed.
we're not paying attention to what's happening in ourselves, and that's when we need to worry. Yeah, so I'm just watching that pendulum swing and making sure you don't get too close to the sun on one
Yeah.
side.
You don't have to worry about, well, getting close to the sun would be like I'm doing too much of that. And that was that point, I don't know, a month or so ago where like I got We have alternate side parking, which is pretty common in New York. I literally got one ticket when we moved here in like 2020. I have never got in 5 years. That's the only ticket because it's $50. I was going and speaking at all these places and doing all these things out in public in person, along with meeting people in person, like just really churning and stretching stuff and not paying attention of filling my cup back up. And I got two tickets in the span of a week, not moving the car. And my neighbor, as I'm pulling the second ticket off of my car, she says to me, hey, you didn't put out the garbage. You didn't put out the recycling. You missed moving your car now. Like, are you okay? And I sat there and like people that don't normally like we're friendly, but we don't have a lot of conversations are noticing that you're off. And I'm dissecting it all. And I reached out to the Iron Tribe guys and I said, I need 8 minutes. You got 8 minutes. And David Landis showed up and he talked me off the ledge because and I went after that. I found a AA meeting because I couldn't find an NA meeting. So I went to an AA meeting. And I've been going to regular AA meetings since that time period. So it's been like 3 months now. So I'm going at least once or twice a month. But I mean, I didn't even realize I was drowning. Like I wasn't journaling. I wasn't looking at I normally go through your self-care shit book. I'm like, I was doing nothing to fill my cup back up and make sure I was okay in the space. I was just running with scissors. And I was like, man, okay. This is what hitting the sun looks like, I guess, but yeah, I have to be very careful because it'll happen. It happens pretty quickly because I need space in between.
Right.
Mm, mm-hmm. You get blindsided. Yeah, I don't like those moments. And they don't happen as frequently anymore. I'm getting better at that. And I'm getting better at recognizing when I need to take a pause. So I love all the conversation I'm seeing out in the universe. There's this, we've been talking since the pandemic about more wellness and more self-care and more realization and meditation and all the things that we can do to be more enlightened and to have higher EQ and more empathy in our lives and what it does to us and how it elevates us as human beings and allows us to bring more people in so that we can give more to others. And I love the conversations recently, even more so about pause. I think it's so valuable and it's so underrated. And I get to a place sometimes where I realize that I haven't given myself that opportunity, but it doesn't have, each person has to navigate what that looks like. Maybe that's an hour, maybe that's a day, maybe that's a week, maybe that's a detox from technology. Whatever it is, it's different for each one of us.
Right.
I love the brain dump piece. I love now. I used to be more with my journal. I still write gratitude down. I still want to I'm just going to put gratitude. There's no big wins, little wins. This is gratitude, straight gratitude. Things I'm thankful for, people I'm thankful for, all of the above. But I'm also doing something that I hadn't done before, which is really like just a brain dump. Like, this is what's in my mind right now. This is what I'm feeling. These are the emotions. This is what's happening. And I love this because I called one of our mutual friends, Lindsay Dow. I had this moment I was around I was around a person who I felt had slighted me. And I I hadn't seen, I thought I had dealt with all the emotion. I thought I was good. I hadn't seen them in quite a while and not even had heard about them, whatever. And then all of a sudden, I'm in the same room and I'm paralyzed. And I couldn't understand why I'm paralyzed. And I realized I had brain dumped on all the things that at that moment when it happened a year, it's like, this is like a year ago. Like, why are you holding on to this? Why do you feel like you don't matter? That monkey on my shoulder that I spent 30 years, with it on my shoulder saying you're unworthy, you don't matter, people don't care about you. And in that moment I get into that pity party when I saw this human and was listening to them speak, and I immediately went into that hole. Before I knew it, Junior's on my shoulder going, ah. And it happens in that split second when we're not paying attention, when we're not aware, when we are doing the work, but maybe we're not as self-aware as we think we are. And it's amazing to me that I got so caught off guard to the point that I wanted to call someone to just, hey, I just want to chat this out.
Mm-hmm.
And our sister, Lindsay Dowd, who's a good buddy as well, it's like, man, just write all that stuff down. Put it all in your journal. I know you journal. I've taught, we know, I've seen you talk. You've heard me, blah, blah, blah. Just put it all in there and make sure you put every piece of it, how it makes you feel, how that made you feel, what you think, the whole nine, put it all in there and then close that book, because you need to process that, really process it, because apparently you haven't. And those are the sneaky things that I think that I have to be really aware, because self-care really only works if you do all of the work. If you're going to do like I've done in my past, this partial, I'm good enough to make the team, but I'm still not going to fully commit to the thing, then you get that partial, reaction back and you don't really deal with it. And before you know it, there's that one thread that comes up and it's like reminding you.
Right. It'll
So
keep
I,
coming up until you learn it. And I remember quite a while ago being so shocked by you because you were talking about not feeling worthy enough to be in the rooms with the Outlier Project and feeling
yep.
that. And I was so sorry. I remember saying, I can't imagine that because we think so highly of, we love you so much and all. And now I love this because now every time a new member joins the community, I talk about you. Every single time I tell the story about you connecting with Peter and the magic that has happened, and I cry every single time. Um,
Mm.
and so I just think that that's such a great twist there. But can you tell us a little bit from your perspective that, a little bit about Transformation Kitchen?
Yeah, I Transformation Kitchen is a brainchild from, I've worked with other organizations that I've taught culinary skills. The problem gets in that there's hubris, there's ego, there's a lot of box checking. And so we don't care what happens to Juan or Sally or Billy when they get through the program. Then we pat ourselves on the back. Hey, we've had 100 people go through our program this year, and we've da 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 da. And the system is a little jaded, because it wants you to do that for donors, for funders. It encourages you as a nonprofit leader to tell your story and your tale in that way so that you can encourage people to donate to you and almost pitch you up against your brothers and sisters. And I want to take a different approach. I want to break that system, and I want to break what has been going on in the nonprofit world. And it starts out by looking at TK from a holistic standpoint. How can we make sure that a human being that's going through this program ends up thriving and better off and part of a community? Because if they don't, then we've failed. If we put them through these paces and all they end up with is a job, and they potentially can end up back on the streets or in jail or in prison or back to being an addict of some kind or not having a job, then we failed. But if we keep them in the community and we nourish them and we give them wellness, we have trauma-informed wellness care providers. We have skills-based people that can teach them about financial literacy, about how to manage your emotions so that you understand conflict resolution and can solve it with your head and your heart and not with these. I was a kid that learned that this was the way I solve problems, and we don't want people to solve problems that way. But you take all those power and life skills, you take all of the wellness piece, and then you take the culinary piece, and then we've added on towards the end, it's 12 weeks for all of that. And then if, hey, you decide you're a person that really wants to work for themselves, then we have a 4-week program addendum at the end that's specialized, that we use partners that we have. We have 117 partners in 10 different countries. We bring in experts and we have you learn from them about how to be the best entrepreneur and business leader. What do you need to know? Now you've learned all this other stuff. You've got a Serve Safe certification. Now you can learn, all right, I want to run a food truck, or I'm going to do this. People think that culinary is front of the house, back of the house, servers and cooks. There's so much. I'll just give you one example. My last corporate gig, I had the most beautiful office on Fifth Avenue. I'm in charge of a team of people. We have 4 floors in this building. We are doing food grade, organic skin and hair care and some supplements. If you heard that and you heard the name of it all, you wouldn't think that this guy would be doing it. But here's why they liked me. Because I came with multi-unit experience where I was managing people in 10 different states and all these different cities, and we were crushing everyone else because I cared about my people and I poured into them. And I told them I'm fallible. I make mistakes. I goof. I put my hand up when I'm like, I haven't been very kind to you today, and I'm sorry. Let's go through this and let's work out how we do this. When you do that and you pour into people and you care about them and you treat them with respect and dignity, they will show up. It's not too difficult, but we make it difficult. So I came with all of this multi-unit experience. I was really doing some amazing things in the culinary world. And here's this great opportunity. And the owner and I just hit it off from the very beginning. We had multiple conversations over the course of like a week, and he hired me. I was in charge of human resources. I was in charge of 2 warehouses in Allentown, Pennsylvania, 1 warehouse that was in the Dominican Republic. And then, we're going to build out all of these stores. And we also are selling on Amazon, Sally's Beauty, Walmart, you name it. Huge job. I was thriving. That It's culinary. I would never have been able to get that job. I needed to understand Food and Drug Administration coming in and checking out our warehouses. I needed to understand OSHA. I needed to understand the health department wanting to see stuff. I needed to understand all, our insurance company and having how many days without having accidents and what we needed to do and systems, you know, all of it, along with the main thing, I needed to understand people. So we did really well. And the only reason I left is because the owner and I were at a place that it no longer was functioning. He threw $30,000 at me over the course of a year and added more money than I'd ever made in my life, because every time he would have us as an organization do certain things, and then he decided on some whim he didn't want to do it, he would change the game, and to say sorry to me for all the work that I had just thrown out the window, he would just throw money at me. And sometimes not even say anything. Like, it would just show up in my check and I'd be like, hey, and he'd be like, congratulations, you're doing great. Keep doing it. I'm like, no, 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 no. We got to talk about this. I don't have time right now. I got a phone, it was like that. And it kept happening. And then when the thing with my dad, I was like, oh, I'm in a store. You're screaming at me. My dad's dying. I should be there with my father. And you're screaming at me about this stuff like on the wall for a store. I had built up my company at that point to where I had just landed all my family's in the fashion industry. I had just landed the big shark. Like, I had just gotten a an apparel company to sign me on to an ongoing contract to be their HR. They didn't want an HR person, but they wanted to hire me to handle all of their stuff. And it was because my brother knew somebody and this, that, and the other. And man, I was like, that's it. I'm out. I'm done. And 2019 was fantastic. And like I said earlier, it all failed. Back to TK, that is culinary.
Right.
Culinary is so broad. It's grocery stores, it's Amazon, it's so broad. So you can choose, but you also can choose to do it yourself. And we want to be the place and create partnerships with people like Peter and Rayo de Sol and other places where we're on the same page about impact. That's all. I mean, we can work everything else out. Everything else can be worked out. But if we're on the same page and we're going to put hubris and ego to the side, and it's all about how we can help more people, then we can do a lot of things. And there are organizations out there that feel that way, and we're trying our best to get with them now and to do that work. I I see us opening multiple locations in New York. I see us being in Omaha, Nebraska, maybe Lincoln, Nebraska. I see us being in St. Louis, maybe KC. I'm talking to people in two different places in Texas, Austin and San Antonio and Fort Worth. I mean, over and over again, there's a lot of nurturing conversations we're having. The universe is going to open when the universe opens, and I'll put on my Pumas and we'll just go. I'm not
Yeah.
afraid to do the work. So,
Can you tell the story or the reason behind TK, please? You know what I'm talking about?
yeah, I, I, I was, um, riding in a place where the drugs I was taking were not impeding my performance. And the restaurant I was at closed down. The head chef for this restaurant, the executive chef, knew the sous chef at a new place that had opened up, and the executive chef for the place that closed down got me a stage, uh, which is a short for stagiaire, means a tryout. The executive chef at that place was just impeccable. He cared about two things more than anything else, and it was putting out the most incredible, high end, consistent food every single service, every single order, every single table. No matter how many plates we had in a night, those were going to be the best. The other thing that he cared about equally was the people he surrounded himself with. I got on the team. I've said it a couple times during the conversation. I'm really good at, of doing that. I'm not Rudy. Like I would have found a way if I had the money because I was accepted to go to Michigan. I would have found a way to get on the team, even if it was as a water boy. Um, I was
I
a
believe you.
beast back then. But anywho, I made the team. Things were going pretty well. And I'm learning lots of lessons. And I was in my addiction and I lost my way. And I literally don't even know. Someone asked me to kind of pull this thread earlier today, and I'm relaying the message, and I can't even remember like how I got like I don't even know the circumstances leading up. Like, was I going to a party? Like I don't know what happened. I just remember waking up in filth in a nasty place, and I had this overwhelming sense that like I'm in danger and I don't belong here and I don't know where my stuff is. And everything I owned at the time was in this shady little backpack. And I used to sleep when I was outside. I would sleep with the backpack behind me so that they'd have to physically move me in order to get my stuff. And I would sleep with a box cutter blade in my pocket. You can't see this on the screen, but this is from me putting my hand up. Um, and they almost cut my thumb off from slicing me with a blade because they were trying to take my stuff. And and I literally almost cut my thumb off. Anyway, I am not proud of these moments. I had burned so many bridges that I couldn't couch surf anymore. I was at a place when I was able to afford paying rent. There were three guys. I remember we were together and we were paying rent, and the one major guy, the guy that had the big job left. He reported it to the complex. The other two of us couldn't handle the remainder of the rent. Here comes the sheriff's department and pulls us out of there. I know you can pull that off of this, later on. You could edit that out, but my brain's swirling. So I make my way back to the restaurant, and I know what's going to happen because it's happened to me before, and I'm pissed at myself that I let this happen. Like, how could I how could I do this? Like, this was a great job. Like, why would I do this to myself? Because when I got out of that filth and found enough clothing to be in public and like made my way out, I had missed Friday night service, Saturday night service, and Sunday brunch. The three most important shifts of the entire week. Like if I had missed Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'd have gotten more, in another place, you get a hand slap and what, but the three biggest shifts. And at that time, I'm a line guy, but your line is set up in a French brigade kind of setup. You have your head chef, your executive chef is like the expo. Your sous chef is like running the kitchen and is like an inner expo slash, I'm going to fill in wherever I'm needed. And then you have your stations, and everybody works in tandem to make sure that everything comes out at the same time, on time, the way it's supposed to be. And it it's magic. When someone doesn't show up, the magic breaks down. It's a pain. Anyway, I make it back, and the sous chef doesn't even want to look at me. People don't want to look at you. You're the Walking Dead. And they asked me to go back to this little office that the chef has in the back. And I go in, and he's not even looking at me, but asked me to sit down. He's finishing up what he's doing, and I hadn't even paid attention at this moment that there's three piles in front of me. And I said this often, that I am a big believer in the power of three. I just all the ways that it showed up in my life, and I didn't even notice, because I'm sitting here, I'm just trying not to cry. I smell, I look horrible, and in that moment, I actually realized. In that moment, I realized how badly I look and how awful I smell. And he didn't say a word. He just asked me one question: do you know why you're here? I'll never forget that. Do you know why you're here? Like there was some profound thing that was supposed to come out of my mouth. And I had nothing. And he goes on to tell me how he had it paid forward to him, because he's 10 years clean and sober. So someone who not only was an alcoholic, but was a drug addict, and he's 10 years clean and sober now. And that's because of someone paying it forward to him 10 years ago. And he had waited for this moment, because there's no lie. The culinary world is filled with addicts. It is an industry that is very demanding and can put a lot of pressure on you. And so there is a lot of rampant addiction, drugs, alcohol, sex, all of the things. It's awful in some ways. And then the industry itself and the purity of what we do and how we do it is so great, all at the same time. And the fact that he chose me, that divine moment, and he goes into telling me about the three piles, which now I notice. And one pile is got pamphlets for Narcotics Anonymous, NA, and for some psychological help that he's gonna, he's already made all these phone calls. Like, not only is he like telling me this, he's already made phone calls to like get it all set up. Now he's just relaying it to me. The second pile was business cards. And this was a place that I could go. I have to call this person. And there's a place I could go where I get off the streets. I'm going to have a roof over my head, and I'm going to get 3 square meals a day. We got a family meal. I always love that. And I instituted that in places that I work. And we'll do that in Transformation Kitchen as well. Like literally, as we have the freshmen, the juniors, and the seniors, we skip sophomores, freshmen, juniors, and seniors. The seniors will end up cooking for everybody, but we're all going to eat as a family. And it's about community. I always love that. And so, but this was so I could have 3 square meals and, could take a shower, could, the whole thing. And then the last pile was a little bit of money so that I could go to these things that he had already set up. And here I am thinking, man, I'm going to get pummeled and he's just going to like lay into me, and the guy's paying it forward to me. I will never forget that as long as I live. He is no longer alive. So I honor him by not calling out all the stuff because I lost contact with his family, and I don't know if they'd appreciate that or not. And I honestly, it doesn't matter. He did me a kindness. And so now the best I can do to honor him is to pay it forward to as many people as I possibly can. So in this last part of my life, for as long as I live, that's what I'm going to do. And so that's,
Thank you for sharing that part. I know, you started it by saying I'm not proud of this part, and I know you're not. But it's so important because we see people every day who are, I don't know how you described it, smelly and disheveled, right? And we can make quick judgments about who they are and what they're capable of. And I
yep,
think it's so important that you tell that piece of that part, that time, that blip, that time in your life. And also the fact that you had a good job and you weren't, you know, there's so many things that I think people need to hear to understand that these things happen to lots of us, to lots of our family members, to lots of our friends, and things aren't always as they seem, either good or bad.
yeah.
And but the question I have for you, even though you're not proud of that, is have you forgiven yourself for those days?
I have. That was some of the first work. The first step is admitting that you are powerless against your addiction and you need help. But as you go through the steps, part of that is that healing process of forgiving yourself, being okay with the person staring back at you. Part of that was I wrote a song. I wrote a song called Can of Worms. And it talks about my journey of being okay with the human staring back at me. That was a hard step. That's been but the, that's been a hard step, but it was not nearly as hard as keeping Junior at bay, keeping that monkey that wants to jump on my shoulder. And I named it Junior because all my family calls me Junior. My name is Ronald Chason Forehand Jr. All my family calls me Junior, has all my life. And that's fine. But I name it Junior because that's how I view all of that. That, the kind of the hypocrisy of everything that stood for in our lives. We did all of these things and we dressed up and we looked like the little monkey that's there with the churn. And that's how I view it. It's like at some point we have to be real with ourselves and who we are and what we are and how we are. And are we going to do the work to be okay with it? Not everybody was okay with it. I was telling my best friend is only from 2017. I have burned so many bridges, had so many, especially people that I knew that I thought were friends. And um, as I start to tell this tale and be more out front and in the public eye, people have blocked me. People have said, "Don't call me." People, it. I wasn't expecting that, but because I have forgiven myself, I am okay with that. And that's surprising to me. I was surprised that I would be okay because I'm not a people pleaser, but I am a person that's very insecure. And that
Mhm.
and that's I think that's why Junior still has a place because I still feel sometimes like I don't matter. And people will show up, they'll disappoint you and they'll show up and do crappy things. And it's easy to have your brain twist that and be like, oh man, they just disavowed they just don't care about your time. I guarantee you they don't do that to these other people, but they ghosted you. They didn't show up and gave you some story after you called them out about why they didn't show up when they called for the meeting. You didn't ask them to meet. You know, we can sit in that. We could sit in that and stew all day long. I think you and I actually had a conversation one time about someone in the outliers that I was like, man, and you said the most profound thing. You corrected me and twisted it back to being level. No, it wasn't about you. It was about them and their decision. They weren't trying to negate what you said, but they were living in their own truth. And what it's like you're trying to make it like somebody is just angry or doesn't like you or what, you're just, because you still have that insecurity, you're still living with that. You still have Junior on your shoulders saying it. And I appreciated it so much. Like literally, sometimes you need people in your life like you, like Scott, like my buddy Harris. You met Harris. He was the one at the door with my wife.
Yeah.
Harris and I worked together at that company. And we've been friends ever since. And he has stood by me through all of this nonsense. And he was our very first president in the nonprofit. Solid dude. I was talking to him earlier today, and he loves what we're doing, and he's funny as all get out. And I can't have enough Kathy Loves and Harris Giddings and people like that in my life. I just can't, because it lights me up and reminds me that I'm okay. I'm all right.
You are way more than okay. And you are, I think the worst thing about you, and you've confirmed it tonight, is that you're human. It's the
Well, that's
thing
for sure.
right? It's the thing we hate the most about ourselves, is that
Yeah.
humanity inside of us. And as we keep doing the work, we keep getting the reminders. We move along, and then we get a little reminder that we're still human.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
buddy.
but we keep going, and you keep going, and your evolution and your growth and your the the like the ripple that is just surrounding you and coming out from everything that you're doing is just so beautiful. I'm so happy to be a part of it. I love the the partnership you have with Rio de Sol. I can't wait for March to be at the next event to support that. And I I just value you and our friendship and this conversation. Your ability to share the good and the not so pretty and be okay with that. And it's such a great um, example for other people. It's a great way to lead so that other people can feel comfortable doing this too, even as uncomfortable as it is. So I just want to thank you for being so open, so honest, so vulnerable, and such a great, great human. I just wish that I could give
Oh,
you a hug in real life.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, hopefully I'll
you
see
are the
you before
best.
March, but if not, I save up my hugs.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great job making time for yourself today. Be sure to subscribe to my Self Care Shit, the podcast, wherever you listen in. Your 5-star review will help get this show to whoever needs to hear it. Go grab your free daily self-care checklist on my selfcareshit.com. Please take the last minute of this podcast for yourself to listen to the ocean waves and breathe.